Welcome, everybody, to the DCA Friday podcast. I'm Chris,
I'm Brian.
and we have a great show for you today. Originally, we were going to do an interview with J.W. Weatherman of MathBot. Unfortunately, he just let me know a little while ago that he was feeling under the weather, and we told him we can reschedule because we want him at full strength. We want him, doing well and feeling great so he can give us the best interview that he can. So today we have a very special change for you guys. We're going to be talking about Dave Ramsey and his 7-step program. And I guess the person I'd be interviewing today is actually Brian, because Brian, you actually went through or you've been going through Dave Ramsey's 7-step program. Could you, for those who are brand new, don't know anything about Dave Ramsey or what's going on, could you go ahead and talk about it? Tell us what's it about, why you got into it, and how you've been doing.
Well, Dave Ramsey, he does a lot about teaching people how to get out of debt. A lot of stuff going on with our society is everybody is taught that credit card debt is, almost that it's needed, so that you're getting to the point where people have they don't make enough money doing what they do for their jobs, so they supplement with their credit cards. So Dave Ramsey took it upon himself to develop a method of helping people get out of not only credit card debt, but get out of just debt in general. Figure out how to pay off your cars quicker, how to get out of your mortgage faster, how to just in general pay things off. And he developed a way to do it that no matter how much you have as your income, you can attack it regardless and work your way through the 7 steps to get debt free.
Interesting. Now, did he just magically come up with this, or what came up with, how did he come up with the 7-step program?
Well, he came up with, I'm not sure exactly how he made his money in the beginning, but I know he was a millionaire I believe by the time he was 24, and, through real estate ventures and different things like that. And he just made some bad decisions and lost it all. And then he had to start all over again with nothing, except at this point he had a wife and family and things like that. So he needed to do things responsibly. And he started working his way back up. And by 40, he was a millionaire again. So in that process, he had to learn, he basically had to learn personal finances from scratch. So he started looking at, where do you start, looking at all these different people, everybody coming from different income streams, everybody has different levels of debt, everybody has, different things that they need to spend their money on. So instead of looking at everything on an individual basis, he started trying to figure out a way to streamline what he was doing for individuals into a method that anybody could read on their own, kind of make it like a self-paced program so that people could get out of debt, and he didn't have to just spend his time with just one person. He could put out a program and help, thousands.
Outstanding. So what was it about Dave Ramsey's program that really drew you to actually taking the steps and going through the program yourself? Because I've looked at Dave Ramsey, I've been studying him, I've been, watching his videos on YouTube, his radio podcast deal, and lots of great information. But what was it for you that really got you to sign up and go through the course?
Well, for me, I grew up poor, so I was one of those people that just accepted credit card debt as it's just the way of life. And I was ignorant when I was younger. I didn't really understand how the whole annual percentage rates worked and how interest worked. And I figured if I was making my minimum payment that I was, doing well, until I got older and I got a little bit more debt. You start getting debt in the several thousands. That interest rate of 11 to 20% starts racking up to the point where no matter what your payment is, you're not even paying off interest. And you start to see that total never really moves.
No, that gets very painful and frustrating when you keep making the minimum payments and it's just, going nowhere.
Yeah. So I started looking at different things when I was in the military on base, because you know how they always offered like the financial classes and things like that were free for, us broke E1s, E2s, and E3s trying to buy our Beamers on $15,000 a year income.
Don't worry, Steph, son. I got a great deal on it. It came with the full tank of gas. It only cost me $24,000.
$24,000 and 35% interest. Your car payments are only $700 a month.
That's doable. I got a guaranteed income twice a month.
Exactly. Yeah. So I tried to go through some of those courses, and they always had like certified public accountants coming in or financial advisors, and a lot of it was just them trying to push whatever their certain product was, whatever company they were working for, whether it was Fidelity and them sending in their people to try and get you to do their 401k or their money.
Yeah, basically sending in representatives to, get you on the hook for their program.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily anything that they were talking about, because all the stuff they were talking about made sense, but they never really spoke about how to climb that mountain and get out of debt. With Dave Ramsey, I mean, yeah, the man is smart. He's probably smarter than I am. But he broke it down in a way that makes sense for everybody. Instead of, you looking at, well, I have $15,000 on a Visa card and I have a $30,000 car note and $400,000 house payment, and looking at all that and going, I make $80,000 a year. How do I pay all this off? That could be daunting when you're looking at like $500,000 in debt. Now, of course, your house payment is expected to take you 30-something years to pay off, and your cars are usually 5 or 6 years financed, things like that. But all these financial advisors that they were sending us on base they never really talked about what you need to do as far as like, you're going to have to sacrifice. You're not going to be able to go and spend money and go and watch all the new movies that you want to watch and spend $60 a pop at the movie theater. You're not going to be able to go and eat out at the fancy restaurants and go on all these nice dates and things like that.
Buy the new Xbox, buy the new PlayStation, all the new video games,
Yeah.
Xbox
I mean,
Live.
there is time for that, and there is, areas to do that in, but you have to budget it. And that's what Dave Ramsey talks about is his stuff. He breaks it down into a way that no matter how educated you are or how uneducated you are, anybody can understand it. He broke it down into 7 different steps that talk about everything from setting up an emergency fund all the way down to how do you pay off your house. And then at the very end, it says give. And that's basically, the ending of it is once you get to the point where all your debt is paid for and you have your revenue, your income streams coming in, what do you do with your money at that point? So the thing that attracted me to his program was it made sense, and it was available on a self-paced program. I could buy the book and read it myself. I didn't have to go and sit through some financial class and listen to someone else talk and tell me what was going on, because all those other financial people, I started getting irritated when I would ask them questions about how do you start to pay off your credit card debt? And their first thing out of their mouth was, do you have an IRA? Do you have a 401k? I'd be like, no, I don't have any of those things because I don't have any money to put away. I got $20,000 in the hole. And you're talking about, I need to save money. No, I need to spend it to pay this off.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. So let's go ahead and break down the baby steps very simply. We got a video for us to share with the audience. We did fix the audio, so those of you listening on the podcast, you should be able to hear it just fine today. We'll go ahead and share the screen real quick, and let's get that started.
Thinking about getting into Dave Ramsey's baby steps? Here's a simple breakdown of all 7 steps. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As always, I'm talking about my journey through the baby steps and my path to financial freedom. Today, I want to talk about Dave Ramsey's baby steps. Now, as somebody that's been following the baby steps for a year, I take for granted the fact that a lot of people don't know who Dave is.
Now, real quick, how long have you been going through Dave Ramsey's program?
I think this is our 3rd time that we're going through it. So I mean,
okay.
It's one of those things where you get into it And then occasionally you might get to step 2 or 3, and then you're like, wait a minute, I got to go back a step. I missed something, or something else comes up like hospital bills or things like that.
Or a car accident.
Right. A car accident. You need to finance 20 grand for another car.
Because the tax return or the emergency fund isn't going to be able to pay for what you need.
Right.
So, all right, let's keep on going.
And I just found this out when I finally broke to my friends and family that I was following this mysterious get out of debt plan. And over again, people said to me, who the hell is Dave Ramsey? So I figured I would take a very simple approach and give you all of Dave's 7 steps broken down in the simplest form. Baby step 1, create a $1,000 emergency fund. Now, what this is designed to do is to help you in times that you would have spent money on a credit card. This could be anything. This is your rainy day fund. This is the money that you will need to help you progress through the process and help you get out of debt. For some people, this could be the scariest step. This is where Dave says you need to get intense. You need to find a way to save this money as fast as possible. Because once you have that $1,000 emergency fund, now you could really start to get to the crux of the matter. Now you could really start to break down your debt and really start to make progress towards your goal. For some people, this is an easy step. For others, it's really difficult. That depends on you. This $1,000 doesn't go in the bank. It's not for savings. It's not for spending. It is strictly there for emergencies. Now, for some people, emergencies mean different things, so that's something you're gonna have to think about. But this is strictly for emergencies. This is if the car breaks down. This is if you have to fly somewhere for a funeral. This is if, I don't know, whatever emergencies you might have, this is to cover that to avoid you having to use credit cards. Baby step 2, get out of debt using the debt snowball.
Now, we actually talked about this last episode when we were watching Minority Mindset's video. Now, unfortunately, the audio wasn't working, but for those who were watching the video on YouTube, which was uploaded today, we got to see a couple different versions of people paying off debt. One was, trying to pay things off evenly, and that just took forever. And you were grinding as hard as you can, and nothing was happening. And then the other one was basically a version of the debt snowball where, you make the minimum payment and then just attack one debt at a time, starting with the smallest one. So this harkens back to that episode. This is a better breakdown of what we were talking about when we were talking about Dave Ramsey's program. We were, reviewing the Minority Mindset video.
What the debt snowball is, you are going to list every single one of your debts that does not include your mortgage. This is credit cards, medical bills, student loans, car payments, whatever you have. You are going to list them from the amount of payoff from the least to the smallest.
All right, now just as the correction, he actually corrected this in the video for those of you who are listening. It's not from the least to the smallest. It's from the least to the greatest amount. All right. Yeah. So if you have like a $300, credit card debt, a $500, car payment for a mechanic that had to fix something on your car, all the way to your actual car payment, up to thousands and thousands of dollars, or house payment. You're attacking the smallest one, right? So it's the least amount to the greatest amount.
And what you are going to start to do is you are going to attack that smallest one first, regardless of the interest. You are just going to attack that smallest debt first while paying just the minimums on everything else. I have a video that shows the difference between the debt snowball and the debt avalanche, which is paying off the highest interest first. You can check that in the card above. But for right now, Dave just wants us to focus on the debt snowball. Once you have that first debt knocked off, what you're going to do is you're going to take the minimum payment from that, and you are going to apply that minimum payment to the next debt. And now that debt is going to have 2 payments that are going to be attacking it while still continuing the minimums on all the ones under it. By the time you get to the last debt, you will have taken all of the minimum payments through all of your consumer debts to attack that last debt with a vengeance. This could be a really frustrating step for a lot of people. I know for me, I was looking at 4 years to pay off baby step 2. This could be a grind, okay? But when you start knocking off those debts and they start coming out of your life and you start cutting credit cards up, it really, really helps you build momentum. If you get caught in a rut, check out my video about the 5 tips to stay, focused during the grind that is baby step 2. Now, baby steps 3 through 7 are uncharted territory for me, so I can only tell you what I know and what I've read. Step 3.
Now, you've actually gone further than just step 2. You've actually gone up to what, step 6? And then had to backtrack because of, because happenstances.
Yeah, we got
Murphy's Law.
We got through all the way into step 6, because we were at our other house. We had everything paid off, and we were working on just paying for the mortgage. And then, things like I had twins and I had a other kiddo before that. So we had 3 kids in diapers, and they're all girls. So me and my wife, and that's her right over here. See?
Hi. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
So we made the decision that since we had paid almost all of our house off. We were at about maybe 30% was left. We decided that since we had all daughters and the housing market was, at the time it was really low. So mortgages were low, interest rates were low. We decided to take advantage of that and move into a bigger house. And the school district that we were in wasn't a very good school district at all. So we moved into a bigger house so that we would have room for all of our girls, and none of them would have to fight over a bathroom when they're teenagers. And it's in a better school district. So we took advantage of that, and we sold our other house, and we had to go further into debt to buy this house. But it's an investment, So we made it all the way through step 6 when we were at the other property, and then we bought this one. So we had to go a little bit further in, but it's an investment property. They say real estate doubles every 10 years. Well, here in Austin, Texas, it tends to double a little bit quicker than that. So hopefully by the time the kids are done and grown and out of high school and into college or whatever, we'll be able to sell it and use the money from that to invest in other things. But yeah, we were all the way up to where we had 3 to 6 months of income saved. We were investing in our property that we moved into. I had investments through work, 401k, stocks, that sort of stuff. So, and then life happened, and we had to step back, and now we had some minor setbacks, car accidents, some medical things going on. So now we're starting all over again. We're back at step 2, going through all of our debt that we've accumulated over the years and working towards paying that off.
Right.
That's where we are
and
now.
This isn't your first time having to backtrack. And that's actually a pretty common thing, is that, and it's not that big of a deal. Like, if you go as far as you can, and if life happens, you have to back up,
Yep.
It's a cycle until you can, get all the way through it, So, and I believe Dave actually, in many of his talks and his podcasts, in interviews and, his counseling sessions, if backtracking happens, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person or that you failed the steps. That's life. That's just living. I'm pretty sure that, once your kids are graduating out of high school and in college and they've left the roost, you guys will probably sell, make bank, pay off everything, and then go buy a duplex just for the 2 of you.
Probably.
No, we're going to buy an RV and travel the country.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yep. Buy one of those big RVs that's like the size of, like a tour bus. And then when we get bored with our neighbors, just pull chocks and drive to the next campsite.
All right, let's continue with baby steps 3.
3 is to accumulate 3 to 6 months of living expenses. Now, why 3 to 6 months? For me, my interpretation is it depends on how secure your income is. If you have a pretty secure income and you know that money's going to be coming in and you're having no problem paying off your bills, then you could probably go down closer to that 3 months of expenses. If you have an unsecure job or your wages fluctuate throughout the seasons, then maybe you want to go further towards that 6 months of expenses. For me, I have a pretty secure job. I'm pretty sure when I get there, I'm probably just going to cut the middle and do 4.5 to 5 months of living expenses just to be safe. Baby step number 4. Take 15% of your income and start to invest that money, to let that money start to work for you. This could be in IRAs, in Roth IRAs, in pre-tax accounts. This is for retirement. This is where you are going to earn money on your money. This is where you take hold of compound interest. And this is where you really start to look forward into your future. Baby step.
Now, real quick, I wanted to talk about this. Dave Ramsey's a big proponent, I believe, of the traditional types of investments like 401ks, mutual funds, and all that stuff. For those of us who are in the cryptocurrency community or whatnot, that opens up a whole new avenue of investment. And Dave Ramsey has talked about cryptocurrency. It's not one of his recommended ones. Avenues of investment. Last I heard, he might have changed his mind. What do you think about those current methods of investing according to Dave Ramsey's program? I mean, how do you feel about those?
Well, Dave Ramsey is a proponent for traditional investments, 401ks, IRAs, money market accounts, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all that stuff. And I mean, all of that stuff it's time and tested. So it's proven, it's
time tested, proven, and basically for the average American.
Yeah. And it's widely accepted, and a lot of those things they're all federally insured, by the NCUA and FDIC. They're all insured. So you can lose some, but not the potential to lose more would be in cryptocurrency because of the volatility. You may take 6 months worth of your pay and put it into a 401k, and you may gain, you may lose depending on how you have your 401k set up. But you're not going to gain anywhere near what the potential would be if you were to invest in cryptocurrency. Now, that being said,
that is also because of the volatility and because it's a brand new type of investing. It's definitely gaining the interest of the younger generations.
Yeah, and it's a lot of things like when people first started investing in stocks, trying to convince your average person that, hey, you buy a stock in this company, you own a piece of it. Back when they first started issuing stocks, everybody was like, what do you mean I own a piece of this company? It's a piece of paper. And a lot of people are looking at cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin that way today when they're like, well, it was at 19,000 last year and now it's at 3. So it dropped. Why would I buy it? So it's just a matter of cryptocurrency is fairly new, and people as a whole aren't really aware of what's going on in that world. And until widespread adoption comes, a lot of your average people aren't really going to get into it. But by that point, they may be too late. You're not going to invest in Bitcoin when it's at $500,000 a coin, because your $200 investment is going to be worth like 0.0001 or whatever. So it's a new market. So that's what's driving the volatility. Is you may make a lot, you may lose a lot, and it's not necessarily insured. And I think that's what scares a lot of people is when you put money in your savings account, if something were to happen and your bank were to lose that money, your bank still has to pay because they're insured. If your crypto wallet gets hacked and you lose $2,000 worth of Bitcoin, good luck getting it back from the person.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Yeah. Which is one of the reasons why I store my crypto offline. Like I have it in like a like a Ledger Nano S or a Trezor. Those types of devices, get it off of the internet and make it secure, and nobody can hack that and take that away from me.
Yeah, some sort of cold storage device.
Yes, exactly. And so I think that when it comes to cryptocurrency, one of the big things that a lot of people are forgetting is basically what Tony Robbins was talking about in his book Unshakable, and that was you don't lose unless you cash out. Like if you take your money out, that's when you lose. So he was talking about the stock market. Everything's in cycles. You have bull markets, you have bear markets, things go up, things go down, but over the span of time, things are always going up, you know. And so when it comes to like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, with it being a brand new asset class, and you know the infrastructure currently being built by builders, by programmers, by brand new companies that have an idea. I mean, if you believe in the company and you think that it's going to be going places, if you put your money into it and the company goes flop, that's gone. It's lost. If you do your research and you find a good company with people who have a reputation for putting out great products, who have experience building companies from the ground up, I mean that's a better investment. And so those projects, they'll will most likely continue on. And yes, there will be rises and falls in price. Like Bitcoin currently is like 3,800 right now, or 3,900. But it was at an all-time high of 20%, 20 grand. Like Tony Robbins was saying, that's like a Black Friday's discount right there, Black Friday sales discount. So
it's the same thing with looking at stocks right now. Amazon, last time I checked a couple of weeks ago, was at like $1,100 a share. Right. And if you were to tell your average person on Wall Street, hey, I know a way that you can get Amazon stock for $300 a share, they're going to liquidate every single thing they have because they know it will go back up, and they would buy as much of it as humanly possible, with the understanding that what goes down in stocks, especially with a company that size, will eventually go back up. It may take a year, 2, 3, whatever. It will eventually go back up.
Yeah, especially if the company isn't going to go anywhere. They're always grinding. They're always adopting new technology. They're always adapting. They're always creating new ways to, have a better product or a better experience for the users. That's something worth looking into investing in.
Yeah.
And, I think that's one of the reasons why Amazon's still around today, even though most of the .com bubble, sites are long gone. Amazon's still here. I mean, originally it just started off as a website where you could buy, textbooks. And here we are today. If you need something, you could literally buy it on Amazon almost completely. So anyway, let's go ahead and continue and hear what else he has to say.
Step 5 is for those of us that have children.
For those of us that have children. I have kids. Do you?
I have kids. Yeah. Yeah. This step right here has caused a lot of debate in my household.
Oh, really? A lot of debate in the household?
So baby step number 5, they have labeled as college. So if you have kids, okay, maybe you save for college for them. But if you don't have children, this could be saving for your college fund.
Yeah. Especially if you didn't serve in the military like we did and get our college paid for.
But not only that, but saving for college. Well, let's face it, and I might catch some heat for this, but not everybody is meant to go to a traditional 4-year university.
Well, also, not everybody needs
this lady right here. She went to college. Believe it or not, she went. And she got kicked out.
What?
Yes, she got kicked out. She went to it was a Christian-based university. I won't say the name of the school, but she got put in there, and she got stuck into classes that were 2 to 3 grade levels higher than she should have been as a freshman. So she walked in as a first-year college student, taking third-year economics classes and taking math classes that she had never even seen before, because the university never helped her get set up with what classes she needed for her actual, like, what her level was at. And
they never had her take a math placement exam or anything like that.
No, they didn't. And she had some accommodations when she was in high school for some learning disabilities and things like that she was never told that crossed over into college, right? Of course, this was back, in the early 2000s. So she didn't have any help. And she started going to class. She started taking all these classes. And next thing you know, she's failing them.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have the steps that she needed. She didn't have the help that she needed. Parents at that point weren't college educated themselves, so they didn't really know where to begin to help, other than this is the office you go to enroll. This is where you go to talk to your counselor. They'll help you. And they didn't. So ultimately, she ended up dropping out of college because it wasn't for her. And I mean, it might have been had she had the tools and the people in her life to help her and guide her through that. But who knows? I've seen people that go to college, spend 2 or 3 years, drop out and create companies like Facebook and Microsoft.
That's true.
Just saying. So your traditional 4-year university may not be for everybody. And looking at our society now, we need mechanics, we need carpenters, we need electricians, and those are all trade. Those are all trade schools.
A skill.
And those people, a lot of times, I can guarantee you, an electrician, once they finish their, I think it's their journeyman or whatever, once they finish that, they're going to be making 80, 90 grand a year. Mm-hmm. You find me a liberal arts major that graduated from UT with a bachelor's degree making that money right out of college. No, he's going to be working at freaking Starbucks, flipping coffee cups for $10 an hour.
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, like you had mentioned earlier that Mark Zuckerberg and, Bill Gates, these are people that dropped out of college and made, billion-dollar companies. People that have got this, they went to college to get the skills that they needed, or went to a trade school or took, courses online to get the skills that they needed. They end up hiring the college graduates.
Yeah.
Without actually graduating themselves.
Yeah. And then you always, you hear about the stories about people that started off a landscaping company with one lawnmower and one weed whacker and one dude running around yard to yard. 10, 15 years later, he's running a company with 200 employees, 10 or 15 different crews. I mean, college is one of those things where, it's good for some people and it's a good concept, but I don't really believe that college is meant for everybody.
Right. Let's
mean,
go ahead and let him finish baby step 5. Save for your children's college fund.
Step 5 is to start to save for college. Now you can use different types of funds. There's 529s and ESA, which is an education savings account. You could do any of those things. If you don't have any children, you can skip right past this step. Baby step 6. Take all of the money outside that 15% that you're investing and attack your mortgage. Pay off that house. No more house payments. If you have an old house payment, this might be the time that you're thinking about refinancing and getting yourself a 15-year fixed mortgage to really knock down your interest and really help you attack that debt. If you look at the whole program, steps 4, 5, and 6 are all going to be done together. You're going to be investing 15% of your income. You're going to be saving a little bit more for your college, for your kids' college, and then any extra money on top of that is going to go right to your mortgage payment. Kind of like how you used extra money to apply it to the debts in Debt Snowball. And the last step, baby step 7, the step that we all dream in the debt-free community. This is the time where we get to really build wealth and give and be generous. This is where you hear Dave Ramsey say, this is where we get to live and give like nobody else. At this point, we have no debt, we have no house payment, and our money's been working for us in investments for however long. Now we can take that money that we've been putting towards all of our debts for all those years. For me right now, it's $3,500 that I pay for consumer debt. You can now take your mortgage payment. My mortgage payment is another $1,600, and we can take that money, and every single month, that money goes in our pocket for us to live and for us to move forward. If you
Did you stop it?
I forgot to unmute myself. So basically, he's talking about his payments. I think I totaled it up to like $5,300 that he could live off of, and use to put towards investments. Like he could put extra towards investments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
once he reaches that step. Once you get to step number 7 and you're completely debt free, then the next step is, invest and give, and you've been snowballing, then you could take the snowball itself to live off of and to invest with.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what you invested in step 4, and that's where you learn things like Warren Buffett talks about. The easiest way for your average American to get wealthy is off of compounding interest.
Yes, compounding interest.
That's where your money. That's where for your average person doesn't know what that is. Compounding interest is where your money doubles at different intervals during your investment period. So, like for instance, when you invest money in a stock and you've been doing it for years, and then all of a sudden that stock goes through a stock split, and now the stock's value is the same, but they increase the shares. So basically, you get more shares for about half of the money.
So basically, if you had been putting $100 a paycheck or $100 a month, and you were getting 50 shares, you've been doing this for so long, and now you have 500 shares. When that
stock split happens, you have 1,000 shares.
You have 1,000 shares. The value of each stock is in half, but that gives room for it to grow again, which means that your value, once it grows, doubles.
And the same amount of money that you've been putting in is now buying twice the amount of stock.
Yes. Because
so if you get into a company where going through baby steps 1 through 7, I mean it may take you a year, it may take you 10 or 15 years. And the question is during step number 4, what you invest in while you're going through this process, I mean, you can earn some insane amount with compounding interest.
Mm-hmm. With compounding interest or with the right investments, you realize that, that amount of money could make you completely debt free in every sense of the word.
Yep.
Time to cash out and go completely debt free.
Yeah. And then by the time you get to step 6, where you've paid off your house, I mean, I don't know what you are, but I mean, most people are paying anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 per month for your average American house. That's just your average 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Yeah, definitely not in California.
No, I mean you got to look at the national average, and I mean
according to the national average, you're right.
Use those numbers.
All right. Now, for those of you who are listening, those of you who are watching, let me go ahead and skip forward to 2 videos ahead. We got basically baby steps broken down. Okay, for those of you watching, you can read it. For those of you listening, we'll go ahead and read them too. $1,000 to start an emergency fund. That's baby step 1, $1,000 to start your emergency fund. Baby step 2, pay off all debt using the debt snowball. Step number 3, 3 to 6 months of expenses and savings, like what you need to live off of at 6 months. Like should you lose your job or something like that, you need to have it anywhere from 3 to 6 months of living expenses. That's baby step number 3. Number 4, invest 15% of household income in Roth IRAs and pre-tax retirement. Like we said, Dave Ramsey's a very traditional kind of investment kind of guy. Baby step 5, college funding for children. Baby step 6, pay off the house early. Baby step 7, build wealth and give. It doesn't get much simpler than that when it comes to those steps. I mean, and Dave was talking about how, it wasn't just, his own experience getting out of debt, but when he was helping others, they would constantly come up with questions that he, couldn't answer, or, it took years before the answer would come to him. And it basically narrowed down to these 7 steps being the core of his entire program. And it's worked for a lot of people. Not everybody's, down for dollar cost averaging into, their investments like we are, or taking a tax return and putting it towards an investment, or using it to pay off their debt. I mean, they're taking a tax return and, buying the nice shoes, or, getting a new Xbox or flat screen TV or who knows what else. They're not using it financially wisely. There's a better way to say that, but you guys understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're not fiscally responsible.
Thank you. So, That's basically Dave Ramsey's baby steps broken down. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Brian, let's go ahead and break it down to the emotions and the thoughts that you were feeling at various times while you were going through the steps all the way to step 6. I mean,
well, when we and my wife first started doing this, I had just gotten out of the Navy. I say we because, well, she suffered in the Navy with me technically. And when I got out, I had a job as a medical assistant. I was making like $25,000 a year. So saving that $1,000 to get started for your emergency fund, when we were looking at our bills, almost seemed impossible. But my wife is a little squirrel when it comes to money.
Is she a couponer as well?
No, she wasn't necessarily a couponer, but what she did was kind of brilliant. She set up a separate account at our bank that neither one of us had a card for, and that the only way we could put money into it was through direct deposit from my check, and the only way you could get money out of it would be to go into the bank. Well,
make it as difficult to withdraw the money as possible.
Yes. And the bank here that we use is not in Austin. It's 75 miles away. So if we were going to go to the bank to pull money out of our emergency fund, it meant getting in the car with my wife and driving for an hour and a half, listening to her tell me, do you really need this? Do we really need to spend this money? What if we spend it and we don't need it? What it's gone, just listening to that for an hour and a half. So
it'll make anybody turn around.
Yeah, and it worked vice versa. So if she said that that she needed to spend it or something, she knew that she was gonna have to sit in the car with me for an hour and a half asking her questions why we needed to do this. And then the step number 2, the debt snowball. When you first get started, we were so far in debt, we didn't even really know where to start. So we basically had to go through and look at our credit report and find out who the credit agency was that had debt, why it was on our credit report, and we had to go through and scrub our credit report because there were some things on there that didn't even need to be there that were already paid for. So we had to go through and get all that cleared off, and then we had to calculate who we owed and what we owed. So just trying to find out and gather all that information was like, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I can't possibly owe anymore. And then something else comes in and you're like, son of a biscuit. Now I owe this company $3,000, or I owe that company $1,000. And then this medical bill comes in. You're like, it never stops.
Well, one thing I wanted to hit on is that I know that in Dave Ramsey's program, he talks about tackling all of your debt. I do believe that also includes the debt that is already in collections. Am I
Yes.
correct in that? Yeah. So
yeah, it's any debt that you have.
Yeah. So as we learned, and we also have a special coming up. Just a little side note: we had talked about in the interview with Colin from the Bitcoin Echo Chamber. I believe that was the episode before we rebranded to DCA Friday. We were a bit too far podcast. The final episode for that, we were talking briefly about how debt collection agencies are actually operating illegally, and how you don't actually owe the debt collection agency themselves because there's no contract. And for our special, we have a very special guest coming on in a podcast in the very near future, and he's going to basically walk us through the how and the whys, or the why and the how, that works, and then how to fight against the debt collectors that you don't actually owe money to, but are basically strong-arming you into paying them just to have that wiped off of your credit. Yeah. And so that's one thing that I do believe Dave Ramsey does not touch on in his program, the Debt Snowball, is how to fight against debt collectors that you don't actually owe money to, but still say that you do. Basically, every get out of debt program that I've ever seen, and Dave Ramsey included, is saying to pay them off because it's simpler, it's easier.
It's
And
simpler, it's easier, and it takes less time.
it takes less time, but the truth of the matter is, if you can fight them and not pay them, then the money that would have been going towards debt that you don't owe can be going towards the active debts, like the ones
Yeah.
that are not in collections. And I believe it's very important for people to know that, yes, Dave Ramsey says go ahead and pay off all of the debts, starting with the small ones, and in his program that includes the ones in collections. But for those who are willing to fight and go the extra step, I think it's important that you guys stay tuned for, I think that's the next episode that we're going to have when we have an interview with Will. Will's going to be the one telling us how to fight debt collectors. And if you can use Dave Ramsey's program and fight the debt collectors at the same time, then you can actually speed through, baby step number 2, because instead of paying off these debts to debt collectors that don't actually own your debt, and you can clear it from your record, then that money that would have gone towards them can now go towards the active debts. I think it's very important to touch on real quick. So stay tuned for that. That's coming up. So moving on, what was going on through your head when you were tackling baby steps 3?
Well, coming up with 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. I have three kids, so that never really seems to end. You get a certain amount set up, and then you're like, okay, well, then we gotta account for this, and you gotta account for that. So it gets to the point where when you're at stage number 3 and you're putting this money in the savings, and then something new and shiny comes along, and you're like, ooh, I want that. I have this in there, but then you have to remind yourself, no, the money in there is for something else. It's not for the new toy or whatever.
Yeah, I don't do a whole lot of toys. Like, to be completely honest, my oldest daughter, she says that she discovered a new word in high school, and it was frugal. She always thought that I was stingy. She's like, no, you're not stingy. You're frugal. And it's true. Almost all of my socks have holes in them.
Right?
It's like, can I sew that hole shut? Yes, I can. I don't need to buy more.
Yeah, I mean, you live in California too. Just wear flip-flops when you're not at work. You'll be fine.
There you go. There you go. But so what else was going on with the how difficult was it to actually save 3 to 6 months? Like, what did you guys do? Like 3 to 6 months?
I mean, it was difficult. It was difficult, because you had to sit back and think about what you wanted and what you needed. Do I need to eat? Of course. Do I need to go out and eat at this restaurant? Probably not. So it was just a matter of picking and choosing things that we spent our money on and making the sacrifices that we needed to. Do we need to go out and eat at this restaurant all the time? No, we can eat at home. We can cook here. We can do this. Do we need to go out to that movie and spend $60, or do we wait until it comes out on DVD and go buy the DVD for $20? So it's just the changing. You really got to get into just changing your mindset on how you spend your money. Because if you burn it as fast as you get it, you're not going to go anywhere.
That's true. That's very true. And with kids, it is very difficult because, especially when they're young and they're growing, they're infants.
Yep.
You have to have, the car seats. You have to have like the baby clothes, and they're always growing. We
had to buy a new car when we had the kids, because we had
talk about that.
Yeah, we had me and my wife, and then we had our oldest, Hannah, and then 15 months later we have the twins. Well, we bought car seats, and at the time my wife had a Chevy Aveo, and we put the car seats in the car, and then neither me or her could fit in the driver's seat because the car seats were so big. We had to slide the front seat forward. Well, me and my wife are both tall. We couldn't fit in the car. And we were like, well, now, okay. And then we started looking at, can we even fit 3 car seats in this thing? And the answer to that was no, you can't. So we had the kids, and then it's like, okay, well, now we got to go back a step because we need to finance and buy a car.
Yeah, the car seats are actually quite wide. They don't naturally fit 3 car seats in a bench seat, anywhere.
They don't. And I laugh at whoever says you could fit 3 car seats side by side in a bench seat and still find where the damn seat belts plug into.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those car seats are so wide. It's like you fit them in there all 3 nice and neat in a row, and then the plugs for the seatbelt clickers disappear on you underneath the car seat. And it's like, well, I can't use it now. You almost just want to take a bungee cord, strap it across all 3 of them, and hook them into the door. So,
which I'm sure somebody has done, which we don't recommend.
Right.
But you in your case, you guys needed to find a vehicle that was wide enough to fit your kids.
Yeah, so we ended up getting a 7 passenger vehicle. So we ended up going with a Ford Flex. So you could fit 2 in the middle and then 1 in the back. So
which I'm sure was rather difficult considering, when they're all, infants and toddler, somebody needs attention.
Yeah. And that's when I say thank God for the built-in DVD player. I know someone's going to be like, that's bad parenting. And I'm going to be like, you sit in a car for 6 hours from California to Texas with 2 6-month-olds and a 15-monther and not have a DVD player and see if you don't want to run that car off a bridge. We had, and I kid you not, we came from California to Texas, and one of my twins, well, I think she was like 6 months old, did nothing but scream from New Mexico. Was it Phoenix? So that she screamed nonstop from Phoenix all the way into New Mexico.
Jesus, that sounds like a case for Grandpa's cough syrup right there.
Yeah. It was like 500 miles of nothing but unadulterated screaming. And then the last hour, our oldest one joined in because she had to go to the bathroom, and I was stuck in the desert with nowhere to go. And she was constipated, and they were both screaming, and I was just sitting there going, "Oh my God, we're all gonna die. I'm gonna run this car off a bridge. We're not gonna make it." So at that point, I was like, I will never have another car where I have to pack 3 kids in on a road trip without some sort of entertainment for them.
Yeah, something to keep their mind off of the fact that they're, uncomfortably stuck in a chair for God knows how many hours.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable sitting in a plane for that long, much less these little kids that have a 5-point harness. I don't have a 5-point harness on an aircraft. You get a little lap belt, which isn't going to help you at all except keep you in place while you go down in planes. But
yeah, it's just to help identify the bodies.
Yeah.
But which body was in this seat? Which body was in that seat?
Right. They want you strapped in nice and neat so it matches up with their manifest.
Which is the sad truth.
All
right. So moving on from 3 to 6 months, the next step that was invest 15% of household income in Roth IRAs and pre-tax retirement. Baby step number 4. What was the emotions? What were your thoughts when you were going through baby step 4?
Well, we're still in baby step 4.
You had to go back into it, right?
Yeah, I believe baby step 4 is one of those things that's continuous. You should always be investing in your future, one way or the other. Dave Ramsey talks about financially investing, whether it be saving money for college, whether it be investing money for your retirement or whatever. You should always be investing at least 10% of your income. What I did with where I work, we have an option for stock options where you can set X amount of dollars to be put into an account, and then every quarter they purchase as many stock shares as they can. So I put in 2% of my check goes to that, and then I have another 10% of my paycheck goes towards my 401k at work. And then I have my 401k all tied into various index stocks across large cap, small cap, and medium cap index funds. So that alone is 12% of my income that is taken out of my paycheck before I even touch it, before it's even taxed.
Right. And by the way, the reason you went into index funds is actually because of
Tony
Robbins. Yeah.
Yep. And his book Unshakable.
Yeah. And just real quick, what makes index funds so powerful?
One, compounding interest, and two, they track the overall performance of the entire stock market. And you have multiple funds, meaning multiple companies, their stocks are in each index. So you may have an index that has 300 or 400 different companies that it invests in. And whoever's managing these indexes, stocks that rise and do well stay in the index. Stocks that suck get kicked out. So the whole point of an index stock is to try and track the growth of the stock market as a whole. And statistically, looking at the stock market all the way back to the 1930s to now has been an upward trend. So it's the easiest way for your average person to invest in the stock market without having to sit there and try and time the market and look at individual stocks and go, do I want to put $1,000 on Tesla or do I want to put $1,000 on General Electric? When you can invest in an index stock that may have both of those plus several hundred other ones.
Right. Moving on to baby step 6, pay off the house early. Now, as you had talked about, you had said that you had gotten down to 30% left on your house before you guys upgraded.
Yeah, we were down to, I think we had $70,000 left on my house, which would have been paid. We would have had that paid off in a couple of years. But life happens. We had kids. We needed to, I had to look at, do I keep my kids in this current house and drive them to the school that we wanted them to go to, which would have been a half an hour drive one way? And then, since we're out of district, we had to pick them up too. So that would mean somebody's got to be there at 3 o'clock to pick up all the kids. Well, I can't do it because I work full time. So we had to sit down and look at commuting. Would it be worth my wife driving them to school in the morning and then picking them up in the afternoon, having to drive that half hour, 45 minutes twice a day, every day?
Yeah, that's like 2 to 2.5 hours of driving every day.
Yeah, and you look at, well, is it worth it in time? Because time is an investment. Is it worth it in wear and tear on your vehicle? Is it worth it in having to spend money for fuel, for gas? Here in Austin, Texas, anytime you put your seatbelt on and you drive on the road, you are at a chance for getting into a car accident because no one in this city knows how to freaking drive.
Nobody uses blinkers like California, huh?
Yeah, nobody uses blinkers. They don't do anything. They'll swoop in front of you and slam on their brakes because they forget that, I have to come to a complete stop before I turn into a driveway. I learned how to drive in Phoenix, and then I really learned how to drive in LA. So driving here in Austin just makes me irritated to no extent. So knowing that, there's a certain risk assessment that comes with that. Is it worth putting my wife and my 3 kids on the road during rush hour traffic when they don't have to be? So we looked at all that, and then we started looking at real estate prices. Was it feasible for us to sell the current house we were in and purchase a new one? Were we going to make enough money off of the house that we were in to use that as a down payment on the next one? So luckily, we bought that house when the housing market crashed in 2007. So we got that house for fairly cheap. And when we sold it in 2016, we sold it for more than double. So we were able to take the money that we made off of that and move it into a bigger house. And by the way, a way to avoid capital gains tax when you're buying houses is make sure that your property that you purchase after the one that you sell is always more than the current property. So that way you save money and you don't have to pay capital gains tax. Because if you buy a house for $240,000 and the house that you just sold was $250,000, you're not going to make anything. But if you sell and you make a lot and your next house doesn't, you try to think you're going to save it, you're going to get nailed for capital gains tax. So we ended up purchasing our house in our new neighborhood that was almost twice the price of what our last one was. But my wife doesn't have to leave the neighborhood to take the kids to school. So she's not on any major roads with children. Mm-hmm. The school is less than 10 minutes up the road from where we live.
It's a better district as well.
The
There's
school
less wear and
district
tear on the vehicle. There's
Yep.
less gas. I mean, so
So-
basically, you are not only making, you're doing better on convenience and saving on the wear and tear and the maintenance and the
Yeah.
fuel costs. You know, you've got a better quality house that you could later turn around and sell after
Yeah.
they're out of college and make a better deal.
Yep.
So
Yeah. So I mean, when it came down to it, me and my wife sat there, and she used to work in the finance world. So we sat down, we did a cost analysis and a risk analysis to see if it would be worth it to sell our old house and buy a new one, because that's a pretty major investment when you're looking at spending several hundred thousands of dollars. And it made sense. My kids are in a better school district, so they're going to get a better education. That's an investment right there. Investing in my children to get a better education. Hopefully, they'll get scholarships, and I won't have to touch baby step number 5. That's what I'm hoping for. So,
now, speaking of kids and scholarships, the school district that you moved to, didn't you say that your kids were in some amazing program or whatnot? Like already?
Well, the school district it's the same school district. They're all in Austin ISD. But the school itself that they were slotted to go to was a school that was rated on a 0 to 10 scale. It was rated as a number 3, which is horrible. With anything below a 5, I didn't want my kids in. So we got lucky. The school that is by our house now is a 9 out of 10. And the teachers there are awesome. And all of my kids have some sort of learning issue, whether they have a learning disability. One of my daughters is autistic. So they're in a school now that they really have individualized education plans. So my kids get pulled out for reading, writing, math, wherever they're having problems in, they get pulled out and they're able to have one-on-one education with their teacher or with the help with an aide or something. At the other school, they wouldn't have had that because that school was overpopulated by 60%.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is about that school, though, was a story that you told me about your kid having some business sense.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about that for let's deviate from the 7 baby steps for one quick second. Hey, tell us about that. Tell us about your daughter's sense for business.
So my daughter Hannah she'll be 9 this month, and this school teaches children about economics and finances and business. And they start in like 1st grade. Hannah Joy came to home and she said, my class is doing a class store. I need to create something where I can sell to my class. I was like, okay. So I sat down with her and I was talking with her. I was like, so let's figure out what is something that you can make that people in your classroom will use. And she sat there and she thought for a minute. And she was like, well, we read books all the time. I was like, okay. She goes, we have books that are assigned to us. So I'm going to make bookmarks. I was like, all right. So bookmarks is something that your class needs, right? Because not everybody in your classroom has a bookmark. She goes, right. Yeah. I was like, okay, well, what if you needed to sell more than one bookmark to a kid? Like, what if they're reading 5 or 6 books? She goes, then they need 5 or 6 bookmarks. I was like, exactly. I was like, okay. And then she starts, we start going through and cutting out papers and making her, her little cards and stuff for her bookmarks. And
what kind of bookmarks was she making?
Well, she was doing different designs for for boys, they had like airplanes and cars, and for girls, they had princesses, Barbie dolls, and things like that. But the whole point of it was she had to come up with an idea. She had to figure out where her market was. So she knew that instead of trying to sell to just the girls or just the boys, she wanted to sell to the whole classroom. So she had to determine who her market was. And then after that, she had to come up with her product. So she went through product design. We got her product, and then she had to get her product to the market and figure out how to sell her product. So this is where the genius idea came from. And I asked her, I was like, well, what are you going to sell your bookmarks for? She was like, well, I'm going to sell them for 50 cents a piece. Now they get fake money, right? Like Monopoly money. She's like, I'm going to sell them for 50 cents a piece. I was like, okay. And then she tells me this. She goes, and when I get less than 5, I'm going to mark the price up to $2 a piece. And I was like, why is that? And she looked at me and she goes, because supply dictates demand. I didn't learn that until I was in college level economics. And she learned this in 2nd grade.
Yeah.
And then she's in 3rd grade now, and they're still, they keep compounding on that whole mindset. So, it's one of those things where I look at what I learned in school. When I was in 2nd grade, I was learning how to make toys out of erasers and thumbtacks because I did not pay attention in class at all. And you were going through your standard math, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. I didn't learn anything about supply and demand or cost analysis or market analysis when I was in any kind of public school. I didn't learn that until I went to school where I had to pay for it. So I can just imagine if she's learning this in 2nd and 3rd grade, is she going to be an accountant by the junior year of high school? I don't know. Maybe. She wants to, Hannah wants to be a doctor ultimately. So most people, when they're like, save money for college, for your child, they're thinking of a 4-year degree. My kid wants to be a doctor. That could be the better part of 20 years in college.
Yeah, especially depending on the
specialty. I am not funding that myself. I know what a college education would be for a doctor. You could go $1 million in debt trying to be a physician.
Absolutely. So I think personally that taking into account where you wanted your kids to go to school, taking into the factors, gas, maintenance, travel time, road hazard, issues that may or may not happen in a 2.5-hour drive every day. I think moving, that's a very legitimate reason to, move closer, save that kind of money, but also prepare for her education as much as, she could actually start her own business and pay for the college that she wants to become the doctor that she wants to be.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the school that my kids go to, the junior high that they go to, I know of a couple of people in our neighborhood who have had their kids go to this junior high, and they teach them, my kids are learning computer coding right now in grade school. And I know one of these kids who was 13 years old and went to this junior high, and because of the coding and education and stuff that he learned in this public school, he was actually able to design an app for your phone, and it's on the App Store. And I don't know how many he's sold, but it's like $2.99 for the app, right? And it helps you, organize your day. It's like a little day planner thing. But I don't know how many he's sold, but the last time I checked, it was over 100,000 of them sold on the Play Store. So
for
I can just imagine
$2.99 each.
Yeah,
100,000 and $2.99.
And he was 13 when he came up with it.
Jeez, when did it actually go onto the store? When he was like 15?
It went out on the App Store. I think it was 2014.
Jesus.
I mean, that was when this kid was in junior high. I mean, who knows what happened when he went to high school or when he went to college? I know
he might have been one of those. He might actually be one of those kids that ends up dropping out of college or dropping out of high school because he's got such business sense and creative sense that he can actually create whatever the heck it is he wants.
Yeah.
I'm not recommending anybody drop out of high school or drop out of college to do that, but I mean there are people that are doing that and are very successful because they got the kind of education that they needed to fulfill their dreams and, create something that pays them in their sleep.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we're all about here at DC8 Friday. I mean, what can you do? What are you building? What are you, dollar cost averaging into? We just heard a great episode today with my co-host Brian here. We had to substitute what we were going to talk about with our interview with J.W. Weatherman of MathBot, and you know what? That's going to be for next week. That's completely fine. He wasn't feeling well, and we hope he gets better soon. But this is like a very special episode because it's actually close and personal to us. And, we want you guys that are listening and, watching, we want you guys to be financially successful as well. We want you guys to get out of debt. We want you to, build something, and be smart about it. Do your research, don't invest more than you can afford to lose, and, pay your debts off in a reasonable and responsible, manner. And, one of the best programs out there that we have come across is definitely, Dave Ramsey's program. He's not paying us to freaking, represent him. He doesn't know anything about us. He doesn't know who we are, but, all we can give is like a huge testimony and, put the education out there. What are you dollar cost averaging into? Well, Brian, you were dollar cost averaging yourself out of debt and into financial freedom.
Yep.
But you were putting your time, effort, brain power, and cooperation with your wife towards getting that financial freedom. And, like we've established before, life happens. It'll set you back a few times, but so long as you stay diligent to your plan and the plan, you'll be successful.
You just need a plan. You just have to put pen to paper and figure out what you want and how you're going to get it. If you want to go to college and you don't have any money to do it, devise a plan. Figure something out. Do some research. Educate yourself. Education is free. You go online. You can learn pretty much anything you want on the, thanks to the glorious internet.
Yeah. YouTube is a great resource, folks. YouTube, forums.
Yep. We bought a new car. We just got a 2015 Buick Enclave. And my wife was on YouTube figuring out how to use her car. Because, reading that owner's manual is not very helpful. So she was like, I'm going to YouTube this and figure out what all these buttons on my dashboard are for.
Hey, you know what? I actually used YouTube to figure out how to change out the taillight on my wife's 2014 Kia Sportage. YouTube is a great resource for all things, whether it's financial freedom, whether it's, being a mechanic, grooming a dog, starting a business on Etsy. It doesn't matter, and it's not just YouTube. There's all sorts of, great websites with courses, that you could purchase for like $10, $20, $100, learn how to, become a welder, learn a trade, do something, build something, create something, and, right now, this is part of our grind, sharing the knowledge, sharing the information with our audience. And we hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. Really appreciate you guys listening in. And those of you watching, please like, subscribe, whatever platform that you're, on, give us a thumbs up, give us a star rating, whatever it is. Leave us a comment in the YouTube video. Leave us a comment, wherever you can, on Anchor. Like this will be on Anchor, obviously. You could leave us a voicemail. Tell us what you thought of the episode. If you have any questions for us, if you have any comments, concerns, or, some feedback on how we can make this better, we'd love to hear from you. Yeah. We'd love to give you a shout out and say, hey, take a, listen to so-and-so and what they had to say about last week's podcast, or whatever. We want to hear from you. And we thank you guys for, subscribing and becoming part of the listener base that we have. So, Brian, is there anything that you'd like to, say to summarize anything? How would you end the latest episode of our podcast? Any final words of advice?
Yes. Stop using credit cards to pay off other credit cards. That's one.
It's a losing strategy.
Yep, because interest is going to kill you. if you can afford to live without a credit card right now, chop the sucker up, get rid of it. Because all a credit card is doing is giving you false hope on money that you don't actually have.
Yeah, I think Dave Ramsey says if you can't afford to pay it in cash, you can't afford it.
Exactly. All you're doing is investing. You're investing in debt, really. So if you can chop up your credit cards and get rid of them, go for it. Yeah. I don't have any credit cards. I have one credit card left that I owe money on, but the card itself is gone. I can't even use it anymore.
Yeah, like I've got mine cut up, and this is definitely not an episode on how to use debt to make money. I mean, Robert Kiyosaki goes into using debt to create wealth, but this isn't that episode, and we're not talking those strategies. This is just getting out of debt. Getting your life back in order.
One day we'll talk about how you can actually use other people's debt to make you money.
There we go. There you go.
But in order to do that, you got to be out of debt yourself.
Absolutely. Unless you're some sort of, you have a genius idea and you've got a genius way to make it happen. It's best to stick with tried and true and disciplined, paths, like stick on your path.
Yep.
Stay disciplined about it and don't deviate from it, And if there is deviation, try to make as little deviation as possible.
Yep. Like I tell my little siblings that are trying to follow my path. The road has already been laid. You just have to get in the car and stay on it.
Yep.
If you veer one direction or the other, I can't control what happens.
Exactly. And
I can tell you,
like Peter says, we talk about we talk about Peter Saddington a few times, and he's says quite often that in what he's building, what he's creating, nothing is sacred, and there might be times for the experiment to pivot in a new direction. Like, for instance, this podcast didn't actually start off as a podcast; it actually started off as a YouTube channel. I was trying to build something and whatnot, and then that became a podcast of its own, and then that became a different type of podcast, and then here we are today, and it's like, okay, I've pivoted to where we've found like this is where we want to be right now. I've got my best friend, like he's like a brother to me, as my co-host. Okay, it's like it doesn't get much better than that. When you have like great people working with you that want to work together with you, help build something. That's I had to pivot to get to where we are right now.
Yep.
And so this is episode 2 of the DCA Friday podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, leave us a comment, leave us a voicemail, like, subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. All right? Peace out, guys.
Good night.